What's going on, MJ traders and investors? It's Rod with Pow Group. Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ stocks, crypto assets, news, and interviews. Also home to the best MJ community. It is Monday, January 15th. Hope you had a great weekend. And for those of you in the US, obviously a holiday today. I hope you enjoyed your long weekend, and the markets were closed in the US today, so we only had the MJ names in the Canadian exchanges that were trading today. And we saw lots of double-digit gains. And are we potentially shaping up for a gap up tomorrow on a lot of MJ stocks, and specifically on MSOS ETF, because a lot of the underlying names in MSOS were trading today, and like I said, seeing double-digit gains. So like I said, it's definitely paving the way for a potential gap up tomorrow, and it should be what should be an exciting week in MJ. But before we get to it, make sure to smash the like. It helps support me in the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're new, you can subscribe, tick the bell, all that good stuff, and you'll be notified on any future videos or when I go live. Also, you can give us a follow over on X. The handle for that is @GroupPow. Going to be using that as my platform of choice going forward. And nothing that I say in these videos should be taken as financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only, and you should never ever buy or sell anything based on anything that I write or anything that I say. And also, just before we get to the news and we'll take a look at the chart, I wanted to let everybody know that I had a flood in my Airbnb property, my short-term rental. I use it for booking.com and Verbo as well. I was supposed to have a guest check in today, and there was a flood. It wasn't in my unit. It was actually in the one next door, so it spilled into mine. It came into my unit as well, which is pretty brutal. So I'm in the process of getting it restored. The restoration company was there, so I might be a little spotty with regards to videos this week, and also expecting our first child, my partner and I, really any week now. So things are going to get a little bit hectic here in my world. But I wanted to let everybody know that. There was also another flood in my building that I live in my condo that I live in. Luckily, I didn't get affected by it. But yeah, it was over minus 50 in Alberta with the wind chill, and that's Celsius. So luckily, it's starting to warm up this week, but wow, it's been a crazy weekend over here in the western coast of Canada. But there was some articles today. So MJ Moment reported that top Biden health official in touch with DEA about MJ rescheduling recommendation. This was about 7 hours ago. And then also NCAA Division I to vote on removing MJ from banned substances list for student athletes. And we know that the UFC removed it from the list of banned substances as well. So like I said, this time is different, and we're starting to see organizations, we're starting to see companies, more and more states, more and more countries embrace this medicine of the future. So I do think that rescheduling to Schedule 3 is the most likely scenario, and I do think that it's going to happen at some point in Q1, Q2 of this year. But extremely bullish articles lately. I also published another video of the rapid fire news updates for period January 6th to the 12th. There was a ton of news updates in there, and it's crazy how much actually happens in the run of a week. But we'll take a look at MSOS here. So like I said, expecting a potential gap up for tomorrow. And what we're going to be looking at is monthly uptrends to confirm. And if they do, that'll be the first time in MSOS history that we confirm a monthly uptrend. We confirmed a downtrend here back in the month of December 2021 after that monster move up in the everything bubble of 2021, and then we just didn't really participate. We went into a brutal multi-year bear market where US MJ, Canadian MJ producers, retailers, ETFs all down around 80-90+% from their all-time highs or February 2021 highs. So as we had multiple lower highs and lower lows, that confirmed monthly downtrends. But as you can see, we have our low, our high, our low, and we're looking for the higher high. So a downtrend is lower highs and lower lows, and then an uptrend is higher lows and higher highs, right? So we're going to be looking for the monthly uptrend to confirm. If we break 988, that will confirm the monthly uptrend. And like I said, that'll be the first time in history of MSOS trading. And then we can target EMA 26 there, which is at about $13.12. And like I said, expecting a potential gap up into tomorrow with the massive gains that we had in the market today. So some resistance that we'll be looking at will be 880. There'll be a level there, and then nothing until 988, which again is key monthly resistance. We break that, then like I said, monthly uptrend confirmed. But let me know if you had some fun today. Obviously, we had tons of gains. You can see here, no shortage of green here on the board. If we just take a look at the leader on the day today, was RWB. We had TAT, Acreage, AYR was also in beast mode today. That's a name that I actually added, I think last week I mentioned it. And I'm very happy with that entry, but the only thing that I'm not happy with was the amount that I bought. It's always after you buy something and then it skyrockets. You're like, oh, why didn't I buy more? But it is what it is. I've got exposure through MSOS ETF as well into AYR, but over the last few days, the last few trading days, AYR up almost 60%. So congrats to the bulls there. We also had Goodness Growth. It was up a ton today, but then had a pretty big sell-off into the end of the day. So from the low of the day today to the high of the day, it was up 66% just in one day. And then at the close, it actually pulled back over 30%. And if we zoom into the hourly time frame here, we could be heading to hourly oversold. This might be a name to play on an hourly oversold bounce and hourly oversold conditions for a potential swing trade or day trade. But if we take a look at some of our other names, like I said, we had AYR, FLGC, so Flora Growth. That's another one that's been seeing tons of volatility over, well, that's on the NASDAQ. But if we take a look just over the last couple of days, it was up almost over 34%. But again, it's trading on the NASDAQ, so it didn't trade today. That was from Friday's gains. CXXI on the CSE. So this is another name that has been providing tons of rewards just off of the low there on Friday, December 22nd. From that date to today, we're up 75%, over 75%. And then the Canadian names did trade today, but again, they're trading on Canadian exchanges like the Toronto Stock Exchange. So if we bring up TLRY on the TSX, it finished the day up almost just over 3.5%. So we did start the daily bounce. We had 262 resistance and we hit 263. So we just barely started the daily bounce, but we could still see an EMA 12 and 26 bear cross here on our way to daily oversold for TLRY. But we have a lack of resistance all the way up on the daily time frame until 340 Canadian. So daily bounce will be underway, and I would more than likely expect upside for Tilray and the Canadian names into tomorrow, because a lot of people in the US or people, abroad in international markets like Germany or, in the EU or, anywhere around the world, most people can't buy CSE or Toronto Stock Exchange, or they can't buy OTC, right? So a lot of Americans in the US can't even buy that, right? So their only exposure is really through MSOS, and then all of these other names that are listed on the NYSE and the NASDAQ, like your Tilrays, your Cannabis, your SNDLs of the world, right? And your high tides. So I would expect a pretty big jump up tomorrow, potentially multiple digit gains. So I think we could see, anywhere from 10 to 20% gains as well, similar to what we saw today in a lot of the US names that were trading on the Canadian names. If we take a look at Canopy Growth today on the TSX, it ended the day at about 2%, but again, we're not seeing a whole lot of buying and volume on these exchanges, so not completely surprising. Like I said, I think a lot of people were commenting on my videos as well over the weekend on Tilray that they were going to be loading the boat on Tuesday, which tells me that they didn't have access to the Canadian ticker, and they're more than likely in the US. So I would expect, like I said, some pretty decent upside for the Canadian LPs because of the fact that they're listed on US major exchanges. And as we get these catalysts, it's just going to be the case until the US producers uplist from the Canadian exchanges to the US major exchanges, right? For example, Tilray had over $2.2 billion traded just on the NASDAQ in one day. And for comparison's sake, like a Trulieve or something like that only was trading at I think somewhere around 10 to 15 million. So 10 to 15 million dollars traded in one day on a Trulieve, on the Canadian CSE, and then in one day, Tilray just on the NASDAQ traded over $2.2 billion. So a big difference there, right? So here you can see Trulieve was up over 13% today. If we take a name like OGI today, I mentioned this was going to be another laggard play. And just over the last few days, if we go from the low here of January 3rd to the high of the day today, it's up almost 44%. So I mentioned this could be a nice laggard, and the reason for that was because we hadn't even really started the monthly higher low, and I said that this could be a nice laggard where we see the monthly bounce continue, multiple monthly inside bars that broke bullish, so you could have went long at a break of 196, and that would have provided a nice gain of almost 24%. But then we still need to top out, more than likely around EMA 12 there at 262, come down for a monthly higher low, and then a higher high to be in a monthly uptrend. So that was a great trade that played out. Also high tide. We'll take a look at high tide here on the TSXV. So today was up about 2%. So let's see if we can get some buying pressure into tomorrow from the retail investors and the institutions in the US, right? Because that's where the big money plays, is usually on the US major exchanges like the NASDAQ. But going to be interesting. And then, as I mentioned, we'll watch for a potential gap up on MSOS into tomorrow, and then it'll be all about 988 resistance, which will be the first time in history confirming a monthly uptrend. So going to be a big week ahead for MJ stocks, but going in it there, let me know what you think, if we're going to see a gap up and multi-digit gains in some of our Canadian LPs as well. I think the fund should continue even on the US names into tomorrow. And we're going to be watching the broader market as well to see how the S&P 500 opens up, to see whether or not we get some tailwinds or some headwinds there. But going in it there, let me know your thoughts. It's Rod with Power Group. Thanks again for joining us in the pursuit of wealth, and we'll see you again on the next video.